Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very, very special interview as part of the Virtual Ocean Pavilion this year. My name is Dr. Gemma Connell. I am Youth Engagement Lead at Ocean Generation. We are a UK-based charity and marine conservation NGO, and our focus is on ocean literacy. At the moment, particularly bringing that ocean literacy to children and young people. So it is so exciting that I'm here today to help facilitate this interview between the Eco Ambassadors at Ballard School and the incredible Professor Matt Frost. So to start us off, Matt, hello, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I would. And firstly, thank you, Gemma, and thank you to Ballard School for inviting me. This is really exciting. I don't do this very often, so it's a real privilege to speak to you. So I'm Professor Matt Frost. I work at a marine laboratory in the UK, and I have been a marine biologist for many years. I became a marine biologist, bizarrely, after watching Jules as a child, and thought, which inspired me to want to become a marine biologist. I then started to work more for the government on looking at how we can look after our oceans and seas. And a lot of my work is work on the international scene. So how do we look after the ocean at a global level? And I spend a lot of my time traveling around the world doing bits and pieces with various governments and various people, and very excited to be here. So thank you.
Amazing stuff. Does sound like a very exciting life there, Matt. It definitely does. And then on behalf of Ballard School Eco Ambassadors, I'm going to ask their teacher to join us now. So Alex, would you like to come and introduce the Eco Ambassadors and what kinds of things you get up to?
Yes, well, I'm one of three people who run the Eco Ambassadors here at Ballard School, along with a couple of colleagues. Basically, we are the spearhead of Ballard's efforts to become more environmentally conscious, environmentally friendly. And as a result of that, over the past few years, through all of the efforts that we've put in, the school has been awarded with two Eco Schools England green flags in the past few years. So we're very proud of that. And the young people who you're going to hear from today they're the latest generation of Eco Ambassadors at school, and they are awesome, as you're going to hear.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And congratulations on those green flags as well. Really great to be here with all of you. I'll just give a bit of a background to the Virtual Ocean Pavilion first before we dive in to the questions. So the Virtual Ocean Pavilion is in its 5th year of running, I believe. And it's a way of engaging with the kinds of discussions taking place at COP, which is the Conference of Parties or the United Nations Climate Conference. And it's a way of engaging with them virtually without being where COP is taking place. It's taking place in Brazil this year, and it's with a specific focus on the oceans. It's a very important event, and Ocean Generation have been honoured to be involved this year, particularly getting lots of young people involved as well, which is, of course, what this interview is all about. So now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the fabulous young people who are part of the Ballard School Eco Ambassadors. And our first question comes from Freddie. So Freddie, would you like to come and ask your question to Matt?
So you wake up at COP30, like what are you doing and what does your day look like?
Excellent. Thank you, Freddie. That's a really nice question to start. And yeah, and interesting because, of course, not a lot of people have attended COP meetings. So basically, I wake up, and the first thing I do, of course, is check that my clock and my time and my laptop are all telling the right time. The worst thing you can do is turn up somewhere and your watch is saying what the time is in the UK, but you're actually in, well, in this case, Brazil, but in previous times, all over different places in the world. So I check that. And I'm usually exhausted, by the way. It's after a lot of travel. And the first thing is where I need to be that day. So I look at my timetable and I will have a list of things and places I need to be. So which meetings am I speaking at? Am I sitting on panels? Am I meeting particular people? So I plan out my day and then I head off. And the first thing you need to do is get all your security. So you have to have special badges and lots of things like that to actually get in and out because there's lots of important people there from the government. That can take forever. So the first day is really complicated because you're trying to work all the security and things like that. And when you get in, it's always a bit of a shock because I don't know how big you know these things can be. But for instance, when I was at the one in Dubai, over the 2 weeks, they have 130,000 people went to that one. And on any day, there are tens of thousands of people wandering around. So the first thing you then need to do is find out where everything is. So where are the rooms, where my meetings are, where am I giving speeches, or where am I not giving speeches, all that sort of thing. And working out how far they are, also working out where the nice coffee shops are and the cafes for lunch and all that. So it's all those sort. It's a bit like it's a little bit being on holiday, but without the fun. The first day, you're trying to find out you're in a new place and what's going on and where you need to be. Then I will start doing what I'm there for. So I'll turn up at a meeting and maybe I'm giving a talk to, it might be a small group of people like this. It might be a room with hundreds of people in. I might be on a panel having discussions. But to be honest, that's not the fun bit of being at COP. The fun bit is that you walk around and you meet all sorts of people and end up having lunch or breakfast or a coffee with people that you didn't even know you were going to meet, or you suddenly find yourself face to face with a president or a prime minister from a country that you're saying hello to. So it's a really strange place. Or there might be lots of Native Americans suddenly doing a dance in front of you to raise awareness of climate change somewhere. So it's quite a lively, exciting place. And most of what I do, other than the events, as I said, is meeting individuals. And all of a sudden, you're sat down, you're having a coffee, and this person is a senior government member from, I'm trying to think of all the people I've met, Pakistan, or it might be the ambassador to Kyrgyzstan or whatever, and you're having lunch with them and talking about things. So your typical day is really full. And then, of course, also you're then doing maybe some media things. So you might bump into somebody who wants to film you or interview you. So recently I was at a COP when I bumped into Tom Heap, who's one of the presenters on Country File, and he said, "Do you mind doing an interview while you're here that we can put on Sky News?" And I said, "Yeah, that's fine. We'll do an interview." So you're doing things like that as well as they come up. You're catching up with colleagues and friends as well. And then, of course, in the evening, you don't get to rest because every evening there's a reception, which is where you get to stand around and meet lots of important people. It's called networking, which is basically trying to meet lots of people that might be good to meet or they might want to meet you. And then eventually, after a very, very long day, you've probably been up since about 7 in the morning or about 3 in the morning because of jet lag. At the end of the day, it's probably getting on for 10, 11 at night. You've probably talked to hundreds of people. Your voice is already going and you go to bed ready for the next day. And it goes on like that for a few days. And I have to say, it's very, very tiring, but crazy and fun at the same time. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Matt. It sounds epic, is what it sounds like, an epic experience. I love that. Thank you very much, Freddie. I believe our next question comes from Toby.
Hello.
Hello, Toby.
Hello. All right. When you're ready, Toby, you can ask your question for Matt.
Matt Frost, what are your expectations coming to the COP30 and what would you consider a successful result for the ocean?
Wow, these are all great questions already. So, okay, so as far as the ocean goes, the problem with the ocean is that for many years, when people came to these meetings, They were all worried about what was going on the land. So they were worried about what was going on with the forests and the trees. They were worried about what was going on with farming, and they were worried about lots of things like that. But nobody really thought about the ocean. So over the years, we've had to explain to people that our planet, and I'm sure you know this, being eco champions, is mostly water. The ocean is most of our planet. So one of the main things that is a success every time we go to these meetings is to make sure that everybody is talking about the ocean. So that's the most simple way it's successful. So when we hear a prime minister or one of the really important leaders stand up and talk about the ocean, we know already we've done half of our job, which is to let people know that the ocean is really, really important. So I think that's part of it. The other thing, as far as a success, is we want people to actually do things that make things better. It's very easy for people to stand up and make lots of speeches and write lots of what they call declarations. You might hear about declarations where people say, I declare we're going to do this and do that, and we're going to do all these things. But actually, it doesn't always get done. So what's really important is when people come back and actually do things. And there's one other point I want to make, which is really important, is at these international meetings, Toby, where you've got lots of important people from around the world, they don't actually have the power themselves to do things. What they have the power to do is ask the countries to go back home, and that's where things get done. That's where you can make laws and make a difference. So for me, a real success from this would be for our government in the UK, where we are, and all the other governments to go home and say, okay, now we're going to start looking after our ocean. We're going to start cleaning up our ocean. We're going to start addressing all the problems in the ocean. And we're going to do all the things that we said we would do at COP. So that's what a successful outcome for me would look like. It's when we start actually doing what we say we will do at the meeting. Does that help, Toby? Is that?
Yeah, it helps very much.
Good, thank you. And what a great question. Thank you, Toby.
Amazing. Thank you, Toby. Yeah, really, really great question. And thanks for such a well-rounded answer there, Matt. Amazing. Okay, our next question comes from Leo.
Hello.
Yay. Okay.
Hi, Leo.
When you're ready, you can ask your question for Matt.
How can governments encourage private companies not to use single-use plastic?
Wow. That is amazing. Now, if I could get a brilliant answer to that, it would solve one of the world's biggest problems. So I would do my best. And honestly, Leo, if you and your friends have got ideas as well, we really, really need some help with this, because this is a massive problem. And of course, plastics are also linked to climate change, because the way we make plastic, the way we recycle and dispose of plastic, all the way we deal with plastic actually contributes to the problem of climate change. But not only that, I don't know if you know this, but 99% of all the plastics we used are derived from fossil fuels, the carbon-based fuel that we make, that is used to make plastic, is the thing that is also causing climate change. So that's important. This is a climate question as well. But to get back to your question, there are different ideas. So some people think that what we should be doing is just banning things. So I don't know if you know, but in the past few years, the government have banned plastic straws. They've made it a law that you have to pay for plastic bags in supermarkets. And they've banned things like microbeads, which are small plastics that can be found in shampoos. So there's lots of things like that. And the government, of course, could go out and just ban more and more things. But I don't think that will help ultimately, because a lot of the plastics we get aren't made in the UK or even sold in the UK. They're made by big international companies, and they're sold all over the world. So somehow we need to work out how we deal with that. So one of the things is we're trying to get, and I don't know if you read about this, we're trying to get a big agreement, an international agreement, the same as the one for climate change, but about plastics. So where every country in the world will agree how to deal with the problem, and then there'll be a COP if it's all agreed and all set up, or a big meeting, a discussion meeting, but all about plastics. So how do we deal with that? There'll be so that's something the government can do, and I think that would really help. But I think, to be honest, the main thing that governments can do, and you used a very interesting word in your question there, Leo, because you said, how can the government encourage private companies? So how do we actually it's like, how do we make private companies want to deal with the plastic problem? And I think they can make it difficult by maybe putting taxes and making it more expensive to use single-use plastics. But ultimately, I have to say, governments will only ever do so much, and it's often down to people like you, myself, and others, and how we behave. Because if the government see that we're already cross about all the plastics on our beaches, in our oceans, and if they see that actually we'd prefer not to buy plastic if we had a choice, if the government see that, then they'll start to make big changes because they'll realize they have to, because that's what the people who voted for them want. So I think, how can the governments encourage people? Yeah, there are lots of things they can do, but they will only do it if we all together start to really complain about it and make changes ourselves and say, you know what, we don't want thousands of plastic bottles being bought every day full of water and coke and whatever it is. We want a different way of doing it. And once the government realise that we're all feeling that way, that's when they'll start to bring in laws. And also the private companies themselves, they make a lot of money because we spend a lot of money on plastics and things. So when we stop doing that or start complaining, the private companies will have to change. So yeah, it's a complicated question that some of the cleverest people in the world are trying to answer, So I really hope that if that's something that's your passion, I hope you'll start to think about it yourself and maybe go out and make some noise, write to your MP, things like that. That's when we will see the government start to work with private companies. Okay, is that enough as an answer for you?
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Leo, and thank you again, Matt. Our next question comes from Lily. Hi, Lily.
Hi.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Off you go.
Are there plans to introduce whale-friendly cruise routes to reduce noise pollution in the seas?
Wow. Well, once again, this is a question which is actually relevant to climate change, because I don't know if you know this, Lily, but a lot of the ships produce a lot of carbon and a lot of other nasty things that go into the atmosphere and cause climate change. So actually, what goes on with ships, not just cruises, but I assume you're talking about all ships, so cargo ships and lots of other things. All of them are causing a problem with climate change, so it's linked to that. But as far as whales, that is something that is also a real problem, because the number of ships at any time in the sea has shot up massively. So I was trying to find out the numbers for this, and somebody said there were around 70,000 ships sailing around on the ocean at any one time, which is a huge number. Now, people have begun to realize that they're causing problems with whales in two ways. So first is the way you've said, which is noise, which disorientates the whales, stops them communicating properly and other things. But the other thing is, which is really sad, is the whales get run over by some of the big ships that go really fast and don't see them. It's called ship strikes. So when they're talking about whale-friendly cruise routes, to be honest, they're not just talking about the noise, they're talking about how do we not run over these whales, which nobody wants. The ships don't want it, and the whales definitely don't want it, and we don't want it either. So are there plans? Well, what I would say is there are lots of people talking about this, and yes, there are plans. once again, there are two big international organizations, one called the International Maritime Organization and one called the International Whaling Commission, and they bring people from all over the world, and they're trying to put some rules in place on how ships should behave. So what they've said is ships should generally go slower, particularly if they're in a place where whales might be feeding or just living generally. And they're also introducing special routes, which is what you've asked about in your question. So they're actually saying, yes, there should be shipping channels that go round, for example, an area where all the whales are breeding. The problem with all of this is that they can bring up all of this guidance. So this is what they tell people to do, but it's down to the individual ships, the shipping companies and the cruise companies to actually put this in place and do it. So the answer to your question is yes, there are plans for whale-friendly routes for shipping, but we really need the shipping companies to start doing this now. And I think they are more and more. So hopefully there'll be some good news on this soon as they actually start putting this in place. Is that enough as an answer for you?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lily, and keep talking about the whales. Great stuff. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have quite a few young people we work with at Ocean Generation who are very much part of the whale fan club, shall we say?
Yes.
Which is good. Thank you very much, Lily. Our next question comes from Sean. Hi, Sean.
Does creating the infrastructure in order to host COP30 and transporting leaders there outweigh the positive outcomes of the conference? Do you assess the carbon footprint, and is there a plan to offset this?
Great. Well, Sean, I have to tell you that I get asked this question every year by my colleagues at work and my boss. He asked me exactly this question. He says, should we really be going to this? Because lots of people, as you probably know, think, how does it help when you get on a plane and fly thousands of miles around the world? And tens of thousands of people do that. And how does it help when you see pictures on the news of them cutting down trees to build roads to get to the venue? So every year we think really hard about this. But the problem is, if we decide not to go, and there may be a year where we decide not to go, maybe one year it gets so bad that we think, you know what, it doesn't, the positives don't outweigh the negatives. But at the moment, we feel that if we didn't go, who's going to be there to speak up for good science, to speak up for the ocean, to speak up to actually look after things? And the danger is that if all the people that feel very strongly about carbon decide not to go to the COP because for the reasons you've said, then it could just be left with a few people that don't really care that much about it. And they're the ones who then make all the decisions. And they just assume that they can do what they like because we're not there telling them otherwise. So, yes, absolutely. We always look at what the positives are. And I think if we didn't go, then they wouldn't have the best scientists to be there on hand to talk to. They wouldn't have people that can really tell them what needs to be done. And as I said at the beginning to the first question, you know, I might get to speak to a minister or somebody really important, and I've had this happen to me, and they'll just ask me, well, what do you think about this? What do you think we should do? So I think those opportunities are too good to miss. Now, the other thing I would say, as far as all the flying, is that is an issue, but pretty much because everybody's there at a COP, it is actually a nice way of meeting people all at one meeting. So we had this discussion the other day at work, and the amount of people that I meet. So I'll be meeting with people from banks, from big companies, from governments, and from lots of other groups, and I'll be meeting them all at this one place. Now, if I didn't go to this one place where so many people go to, then I might then have to fly to lots of other places to meet up with them. So in that sense, it is a good opportunity to tick a lot of boxes and meet them at this one event. And then finally, we do monitor how much carbon our flights use. and we do things back at work to offset that carbon. So for instance, we've built a massive solar carport at Plymouth Marine Laboratory where I work to offset our carbon emissions, and that offsets some of the travel. So we're always thinking about that. So yeah, they're the sort of things we think about, and it's a really good question, and one which you can ask me again next year, and maybe I'll answer you differently. But this year, the positives outweigh the negatives. So thank you very much,
Amazing.
Sean.
I believe you've got another question for Matt, Sean.
Yes. Is COP30 used for fossil fuel deals like the last one?
Oh, Sean, right. Okay. So you read about that on the news, I assume, or you heard about, yes, a lot of people heard that people were going off to these COP meetings and they were actually sitting in a back room and making deals about how much oil they could sell to different countries. And you're exactly right, that did happen. Now, I can't promise that that will never happen at any COP, because if you think you've got some of the most important, well, the most powerful leaders, both in terms of governments and in terms of industry in the world. So I don't know if you've seen it on the news today, but the president of Brazil and Prince William and lots of others are talking at the moment at the COP. You've got all these powerful people. Now, I can't tell thousands of those people how to behave, so I can't promise you that there won't be some instances of some people going into a room. And I have to say, there are also some people, and I have to be very careful what I say here, but there will be some people at COP who aren't there because they want to see good outcomes in terms of climate change. They want to see things not change. That's not most people, it's only a few, but there will be some of those people there, and they just want to see things stay as they are. So I can't promise it won't happen. What I can promise, though, is that there are enough people there to know that there will be good things come out of it. And they've made it absolutely clear that this COP is all about better working together globally, what they call multilateralism. So making sure that we all work together across the world, making sure that we connect climate change to individuals a lot better. So instead of just talking about it amongst governments, it's actually things like this. It's people in schools, or it might be local communities that they need to know much more about it. And then the other main aim of this COP, and I mentioned this earlier, is actually to do things, to get things done. So it's what they've called accelerating implementation. So what it means is, let's stop talking about what we're going to do and let's get on and do it. So I'm hoping that the good things that come out of that will outweigh any sort of dodgy deals that might go on in a back room somewhere. As I said, I can't promise you that won't happen, but I can say that there are enough good people there with good intentions that some good will come out of this COP, which hopefully will outweigh any of that. Do you believe that? You're
What do you think?
That's the question.
Probably.
Well, tell you what, Sean, let's be optimists together and hope for the best, yes?
Yeah.
I mean, what an amazing set of questions there as well. Thank you, Sean.
Wow, they really are.
Yeah, it's yeah, they're really challenging you, these young people. I told you they were good, Matt. Really, really
Indeed.
good bunch of young people. But also thank you for your honesty there as well. We certainly all appreciate that. We've got 2 more questions for you, and the next one comes from Lily.
What is the extent of the impact of pumping carbon back into the ocean underneath the seabed?
Wow. Yeah, these are all great questions. Well, I'll have to answer this one quickly, even though I've been to meetings, Lily, that have lasted all day answering this exact question. So it's going to be a very simple answer. But essentially, we know that it's possibly helpful. They call it carbon capture and storage to get rid of carbon under the seabed, but it can also cause problems. For example, if it leaks. So it can then cause problems with the water, and that can cause problem for marine life. The biggest problem with this is that we don't actually know at the moment, because we don't know what it would look like to do this with a really, really big experiment. So we've got lots of small examples in small experiments. So we can show how carbon perhaps leaking out of the ocean in a one area could affect coral reefs or something like that, or it could affect the fish or some other animals that live there. But what we don't know is what happened if this was happening all over the ocean. So what we're trying to do at the moment is bringing some rules to say nobody should be going into the ocean and developing technologies. So whether it's pumping carbon under the seabed, or whether it's changing the chemistry of the seawater, or whether it's adding sort of iron filings into the ocean, or some, you know, lots of ideas. Everybody has ideas how to use the ocean to get rid of carbon. What we're saying is don't do it until we know the answer to your question, until we've got the science. So I'll give you a quick example. If you went to the doctor and said, I feel really poorly, and the doctor said, well, I've got some medicine for you. I'm going to give you this medicine, Lily. I don't know if it works very well, and it might make you really ill, but I don't actually know that. We haven't tried it. Would you take that medicine?
No.
No, of course you wouldn't. You'd say, I'll take that medicine in future when you've tested it properly. So that's what we're saying about this idea of pumping carbon in. We're saying we can't just do that to the ocean now before we understand what those side effects might be. Once we know that, then maybe it will be a good thing, maybe it will be a bad thing, but we need to know. Otherwise, we're a doctor just saying, take this medicine and let's hope you don't get too sick, please.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Our final question comes from Freddie. Hi, Freddie.
Hello.
Hi again, Freddie.
What key messages would you like us to share with the school community in order to look after the ocean better?
Gosh, wow, that's amazing. Well, the key message is really is, and I think you all know this, so you can share this, is how important the ocean is. A lot of people, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people don't really know anything about the ocean, even people who live near the ocean. There's been lots of research done to show that they don't really know what's in it. They don't really understand it. They know about the grass and the trees and the parks and things because they see them all the time, but a lot of people never really see the ocean. So I think the most important message is to remind everybody that most of our planet is ocean, as I said at the beginning. That's what we live on a planet which is 3/4 of it is the ocean. And remind them that when the ocean is healthy, then we're healthy. When the ocean is in a good condition, we're in a better condition. Actually, the air we breathe, the fact that we've got clean air, a lot of that is because of the ocean. A lot of the world, it's food, or a lot of their food comes from the ocean. A lot of our food comes from the ocean, but other places in the world completely rely on it. So I think you need to go and tell people that basically we need to look after the ocean, because if we look after the ocean will help us to be better people physically and mentally. It will give us a better lifestyle. We can't afford to let the ocean be ruined. So just tell people we need to look after it and how amazing it is. And if you could do that, that would be really helpful, Freddie.
All right.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. That's the end of our questions for you, Matt. Do you have any questions for our Eco Ambassadors?
Oh, I've got one question, and maybe one person can answer it all of it. I would like to ask the Eco Ambassadors, as I will be flying out in a few days out to Brazil for COP, and I hopefully will be bumping into various people. So, what would their message be for me to take to COP30? If they had a message they wanted me to take to COP30, what would it be?
Okay, Eco Ambassadors, that's a big question. What message do you want Matt to take to COP30? If we got a representative who'd like to come and answer that question.
Toby.
Toby, come on, Toby.
Plant more trees.
Thank you, Toby. That's a great one. So if I beat somebody, I will definitely say that there is a strong feeling amongst the young people, as represented by Toby and the Ballard School Eco Ambassadors, that we need to be doing more for forest and plant more trees. Thank you, Toby.
And please may I ask you one last question?
Of course.
What's your favourite marine animal?
Oh my word. That's I always really I mean everybody likes sharks and things like that. I used to like an animal called the leafy sea dragon. Have you heard of that?
Those? Yeah, I've heard of those.
Yes. Well, if you look at, I just think it's incredible, and it's one of those animals you look at and you think, I can't quite believe that's real and that it actually exists. So I've always had a soft spot, and also I've never seen one in the wild, where I've seen lots of other things. So I'm going to go for a leafy sea dragon off the top of my head, really. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Toby.
Thank you so much, Toby. What a great last question
Yeah.
to end on. That's brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for taking the time to speak to myself and the amazing Eco Ambassadors from Ballard School today. And thank you to our Eco Ambassadors for those incredible questions, most of them written by the young people. Very, very,
Yeah, what
very...
an amazing group. Amazing group.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just we can see the next wave of change makers in that classroom right now.
Exactly.
So thank you all so much. I hope the audience watching this has enjoyed and learnt something and felt inspired both by Matt and by our fantastic young people. So just to say thank you for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the virtual Ocean Pavilion.